Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have on Shereen Rayan Lavi on the line, who's Director of Finance Systems over at Live Nation Entertainment and also show host over at In the Front Row. Shereen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm excited to get more into what you're doing over at In the Front Row on your show. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your career and on this entertainment path?
Well, I know it's going to sound funny, but when I was 8 years old, I had a dream that I wanted to play in the NFL, and I promptly went down to my father, who was a huge avid sports fan, UCLA, Rams, Lakers, all that. And I said, Dad, I want to be an NFL player. And he said, that's never going to happen. And I said, but why not? And he said, because you're going to grow a few things, and when you get older, it's just not going to happen, Shereen. I'm like, okay. So I continued to become a musician. I played softball, in the 70s, girls, there wasn't a lot for girls on the West Coast. I heard on the East Coast there was a lot more for girls because everybody played inside. But it was on the West Coast, the only organized sport they had was softball, so I played it. And then I did a little volleyball too. But I wasn't the best athlete, but I did have fun playing softball. And I ended up my little career there in the junior high on the all-star team and won the game with a in the park home run. So
that's awesome.
That was kind of fun. And then, I stayed I'm born and raised here in Los Angeles, and I actually attended high school in the Valley, and I became a cheerleader, yell leader. I wasn't really a cheerleader, but I was on the megaphone. So I stayed as close to sports as I possibly can or could. And so I was on the football field, and I knew half the football team because I understood the sport. Whereas, everybody else I was cheering with, they were just there to be cheerleaders. I was there because I got in for free, and, I played the sport. I mean, I love the sport, and I always wanted to play it. But fast forward, went to Cal State Northridge, got a degree in business. And in those days, my degree was in decision support systems, which is something right now, if you look, you'll see a lot of decision scientist jobs, and they're all programmer jobs, which is quite interesting. But when I went to school at Cal State Northridge, it was a brand new degree, and I really wanted to get into analytics. I started out as an accounting major, but it was so impacted, and I wasn't enjoying it. So needless to say, I was one of 4 graduates in that school in 1984, and it wasn't until maybe 5-6 years ago that it became like the hottest job in the business world, analytics. So at the time, I joined a small, I would say Big 8 accounting firm, Kenneth Leventhal and Company at the time. It's now Ernst & Young. So I'm an officially alumni of Ernst & Young, and a lot of my former coworkers still work there. And when I was there, of course, my love for sports carried right into my first job as a systems analyst, selecting software. So right out of the gate out of college, I was on major projects selecting doing vendor selections, and also doing financial analysis with the financial analysis management division. And then the auditors didn't understand computers, and we got these brand new compact portables that were like 25 pounds. So I was converting, they had me on audit, converting, their spreadsheets from pencil and paper to, I guess it was Lotus at the time. So anyway, I got involved more in financial planning after that, went to Princess Cruises. From there, I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, and I started in a very small company who actually produced Look Who's Talking. It's called MCG, and we also managed John Travolta, Drew Barrymore, Howie Mandel, and a couple other famous people. That went belly up. So some friends of mine from Kenneth Leventhal and Company were working at Orion Pictures. So then I was over there as a financial analyst. And so fast forward a whole bunch of years, I worked in several entertainment companies, and I also worked for Sun America, where I implemented SAP. And I was a major part of that project, from security to design to data flow and everything. And from there, went to DirecTV for 9 years and did all kinds of management of different projects, from sales to the website to SAP to Business Warehouse. I stood up their Business Warehouse, as well as, of course, I had to get into the sports side of it. So I worked side by side with the sports offer people and was part of the NFL Sunday Ticket. And when the MLB was only on DirecTV, I was there for that whole thing, and I got to meet Peyton Manning, I got to meet Elway, I got to meet Marcus Allen, I was, one of the things you got to do was every summer they had this big festival, and there was always some athlete there, Luke Walton, Derek Fisher. I could go on and on and on, but that was a real fun part of the job. But then I decided I wanted to lead a team in business analytics to finally get back to what I studied. So I took a job with Sony Pictures as the executive director of financial reporting and planning, and ran the global support team that rolled out all the solutions for reporting and planning and Business Warehouse and all that stuff at Sony Pictures. And then I decided to while I was there, I was like, my kids had grown. They had left the nest and both went to the University of Arizona. And so I decided to start writing. I was lucky enough to answer a tweet from the editor at the time of this site called Zona Zealots for Fansided. And he quit the day I got the job, and I begged to be the editor, and they thought I couldn't do it, but I wrote 15 articles in 15 days and became the editor. So for about 4.5 years, I was the editor of Zona Zealots on Fanside. I've written over 1,000 articles.
Wow.
In addition, I was a contributor on the Lake Show Live for 4 years as well, and that got me credentials to the South Bay Lakers, and so I know of quite a few players that I've interviewed, and so I've done a lot of sports writing, and
I think that's pretty amazing, and like how you've been able to how you were able to transition your love for sports and make it into a career, and also turn it into a profession and stay close to the game on the field, meeting players. I'm like, man, this is interesting. So your dad said you can't play, but he didn't say you couldn't be part of the game. I think I think that's a great transition. I want to get into what you're doing over at In the Front Row. So let's get into your show a little bit more.
Okay, so In the Front Row, I started as a blog, which is how I got the writing job at Fansided. And little by little, I wasn't satisfied with writing. So what I would do is I bought a camera, and I got some interns to work with me, and we would go to high school football games, and like Tango's All-American Camp, All Is Life All-American Camp, and I'd interview players live, as well as, we would make video content. And I actually interviewed Terrence Ferguson, who plays on the OKC team, and Raleigh Elkins together. The two of them were going to go to Arizona, of course. So I interviewed them. That was my first interview ever, and everything took off from there. And In the Front Row has been able to get credentials to the South Bay Lakers, the AC Clippers, the Rams have given us credentials. We spend every summer, this was our 4th or 5th year at the Drew League in Compton, and you get access to NBA players from there because they come and play, like Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams. I've interviewed those guys. I've met Andre Drummond, and the beard has fallen into my shoes, poked my eye. He didn't play this summer, and I became good friends with Nick Young, and he really trusts me, as well as Jordan Bell, who I met at the Drew League while he was at Oregon, and gave him a lot of affection and attention. And, my whole thing is that I care about the player. So I care about the coach and the player, and I'm not there to tear them apart. I'm there to build them up. I'm there to find out more about them, not just about their game, but what makes them tick and how they got so successful, and they know it. I can't tell you how many players have come up to me and said, Shereen, you've had my back from the beginning. I can't tell you, football and basketball. And I once went to Hawkins High School and interviewed 6 football players at once. And all 6 players had at least 20 offers from Alabama to Tennessee to USC, UCLA, Arizona. It was amazing. So I'm still friends with a lot of players. One of the players I interviewed that day is actually going to start as a cornerback at Stanford next season. And last night I was watching the UCLA, and I've interviewed Jake, Sharif O'Neal many times. Jalen Hill I've known since he was 14 and 6'5". Now he's like 6'9", 6'10". So like, oh wait, I know that I interviewed that kid and that kid. Every time I'm watching, and I also got Pac-12 credentials, so I was at Pac-12 Media Day for basketball. So I got to interview Mike Cronin, and he's hilarious. I got to ask Sean Miller if he was going to play zone and press more, and of course he said no, but he had to do that in the last game against St. John. So I have my niche, but I'm not a newspaper, so sometimes it's hard to get access to players and stuff. So In the Front Row now we have a podcast. The quarterback, the last quarterback for the Arizona Wildcats, Khalil Tate, his brother Tilly Tate, has been my executive producer for many years, and he and his his friends from home here that all play football, they all have a podcast every week, so you got to tune into that. And we also have a live show every Sunday at 7:30 on YouTube from Morris Media Studios, and it's on Crenshaw Boulevard, and we're always looking for people to come on. We had Clipper Darrell on there the other day talking about the Clippers and the Lakers, and my co-host Fredo Cervantes actually lost a bet to have to wear a cheerleader outfit because he lost that game. And so we're also, during the Drew League, we forged a really close relationship with the Ball family, and they actually trust us that we're not a TMZ site. So they give us breaking news all the time. And LaMelo Ball probably will go 1 or 2 in the draft, we're thinking. And we predicted that a long time ago. And he's real serious now. Like, everything's really changed for LaMelo Ball. So, and I've been trying to mentor everybody and I have about 20 people working on and off. They do whatever they want, whenever they want. And there's no commitment as much as when you do take on a role or an event, you need to carry it through and use all the rules that I have, which is just to be positive and support the athletes and stuff. So we're looking for sponsors so I can actually start paying people and get better talent. And not that I don't love my talent, but, we want to be able to get better talent and, develop.
Man, I love it. I love it. And you can hear your passion for what you're doing, and it's not easy to do what you're doing. If somebody, so Shereen, speaking of, if somebody is thinking about sponsorship, or even if they just want to tune into the show and follow up and learn more, what's the best route for them to do that?
So they can watch the show on, they can see all the content from the last 4 or 5 years on youtube.com/inthefrontrow. And there's many playlists there, so you can pick the Pac-12 if you want that. You can pick, the Drew League if you want that, or specific players. And I'm on Instagram at @sportscrazy with 2 E's 28, and I'm on Twitter at @sportscrazy with 2 E's, and you can find me there. You can DM me on Instagram or Twitter, or FLAVI@inthefrontrow.com if you want to email me. And there's also a contact form on the website, which is inthefrontrow.com. So there's many ways to find me: LinkedIn, through Mr. Torres here. It's been so gracious to have me on. But you can find me. You just search on Google for Shereen Rayan, or Ryan, Rayan. You should be able to find me.
That's awesome. Well, Shereen, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work you're doing over at In the Front Row to help these athletes and to keep everyone informed. I mean, it's just amazing. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Shereen, thanks again for coming on.